يؤيدون فكرة المؤتمر
أن يعود حزب الله إلى لبنان.
Good afternoon on this Monday, November 11th. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's headlines. President Michel Sleiman heads to Saudi Arabia for talks with King Abdullah, focused on the situation in Syria and the Iranian-Saudi relations. The Syrian political opposition agrees to participate in the international peace talks in Geneva, but say only when certain preconditions are met. And Iran state television says an agreement for expanded monitoring has been reached in talks with the UN nuclear chief in a deal that could boost wider negotiations over Tehran's atomic program. President Michel Sleiman heads to Saudi Arabia for talks with King Abdullah on issues of common interest regarding Lebanon and the region. A source at Beirut airport said Sleiman, accompanied by political advisors, left on a private jet heading towards Riyadh at midday. A statement from the presidential palace said Sleiman would discuss with King Abdullah ibn Abdulaziz and senior government officials ways to enhance the historic friendly ties and cooperation between Lebanon and Saudi Arabia, as well as the regional developments and ways that best serve the common interest of the two brotherly countries. The meeting is also going to be attended by former Prime Minister Saad Hariri. Sleiman's visit comes amid a heated campaign launched by Hezbollah against Saudi Arabia and its key ally in Lebanon, the Future Movement, which the party blames for the 7-month cabinet deadlock and paralysis in parliament. Sleiman said that the main themes of his visit would be Lebanon and the Lebanese expatriates, the situation in Syria, and the Iranian-Saudi relations. Sectarian rhetoric escalates in Tripoli over the weekend as senior Sunni sheikhs are calling for justice for the victims of August's twin car bombings, one day after the leader of a pro-Assad party warned that Alawites would fight back if targeted. Around 3,000 people, many carrying black flags bearing the declaration, "There is no God but God," gathered for a rally dubbed Achieving Justice at the Rashid Karami Expo in Tripoli to demand that the perpetrators of the car bombings be punished. Speakers in Sunday's rally condemned the Syrian regime and its allies in Lebanon and called on the state to arrest the perpetrators of the Tripoli bombings while criticizing what they call a double standard in dealing with Asir and allies of the Syrian regime. The rally comes a day after Rafat Eid, a leading member of the pro-Assad Arab Democratic Party, accused the information branch of the internal security forces of coercing a suspect into naming his father in relation to the bombings case. The Syrian political opposition has agreed to participate in international peace talks in Geneva, but only if certain preconditions are met, according to a statement by the Syrian National Coalition. The statement released earlier today outlined conditions that must be met before the talks, which aim to end Syria's 2.5-year civil war by creating a transitional governing body. The requisites included the need for a guarantee that relief agencies be allowed access to the besieged areas, the release of political prisoners, and the demand that any conference should result in a political transition. The main sticking point continues to be centered on the role of Bashar al-Assad, with the opposition demanding that Syria's president not take part in the country's future. Iran state television says an agreement for expanded monitoring has been reached in talks with the UN nuclear chief in a deal that could boost wider negotiations over Tehran's atomic program. The broadcaster said the deal was struck earlier today in talks with UN nuclear chief Yukiya Amano. It is a so-called roadmap that will give UN inspectors a broader reach, including access to a heavy water reactor under construction and a key uranium mine. Amano's visit comes after efforts in Geneva over the weekend stalled on ways to ease Western concerns that Iran could one day produce nuclear weapons. Iran says its nuclear program is peaceful. The IAEA has complained about restrictions in access at some sites, Clearing the obstacles could be a major step towards a deal between Iran and world powers when negotiations resume next week. An identified gunman has shot and killed Iran's deputy industries minister, according to state news agency IRNA. Safdar Ahmadabadi, who was also the Minister for Mines and Trade, was shot twice in his head and chest in an eastern neighborhood of Tehran. IRNA is reporting that police say they believe that the deputy minister had been shot by someone who had been traveling with him in his vehicle, as bullet shells had been found inside the car, whose windows were intact. IRNA quoted a police officer at the scene as saying that there were no signs of struggle or beating at the site of the assassination. An official investigation into the murderer has been opened, but no group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Now for news around the world in brief, Typhoon Haiyan has made landfall in Vietnam days after leaving thousands feared dead and widespread devastation in the Philippines. Meteorologists are confirming in the capital, Hanoi, saw downpours and houses in some northern provinces were damaged by high winds. National disaster officials said no deaths has been reported so far, although state media say 5 people have died during preparations for the typhoon. In the Maldives, police are clashing with hundreds of protesters after outgoing President Mohamed Wahid said he would remain in power after his term ended. Wahid had been due to step down on Sunday, but when no candidate won the necessary 50% of votes in a long-delayed presidential election the previous day, the Indian Ocean archipelago was essentially left in constitutional limbo. Mohammed Nasheed, who became the first democratically elected president of the popular holiday destination in 2008, but who was forced from office in disputed circumstances last year, led after the first round with 47% of votes. And world nations have launched a new round of talks in Warsaw and Poland to pave the way for a 2015 deal to cut climate-altering greenhouse gas emissions. The 12-day United Nations Climate Change Conference began in Poland's capital amid a slew of warnings about a potentially disastrous rise in greenhouse gas emissions. Many key players, including the European Union, are pushing for a climate summit for world leaders called by UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon in September next year. Coming up next, Linda Tamim talks to Bita about animal welfare. Stay with us for the exclusive. You should have faced. Wow, that was a run. Welcome back. Last week, a video went viral on social media and on the web showing a teenage boy who was later identified as Hassan Hamoud putting his cat into a microwave. Now, while this was meant as a joke, and Hamoud has since issued an apology and removed the video, understandably, the immense backlash and the vast majority of comments denouncing his act prompted animal welfare groups to demand the cat be removed from his custody. Animal welfare activists in Lebanon are offering to immediately care for the cat and make sure it is healthy and adopted into a home that can give it the care it requires. To delve further into this issue, our very own Linda Tamim is hosting Beirut for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, known as BITA, the first animal shelter in Lebanon to rescue dogs, cats, and wildlife who are in life-threatening danger. Over to you, Linda.
Thank you, Yumna. We have the pleasure to welcome animal welfare activist and BITA volunteer Rima Barakat in our studios. Hi, Rima.
Hi, Linda.
Okay, this incident is just one example of the countless cases of animal abuse. How did BITA deal with the situation?
Yes, this is very true. Unfortunately, every day we have so many animal abuse. You have so many cases from dogs, cats, horses, any animals you can possibly imagine being shot, poisoned, abused, dragged by cars, and some cases go unnoticed sometimes because you lack footage or you lack evidence, whereas in this case, which is just one in hundreds if not thousands, it went viral because of the video that was posted online. Now, the video it went viral on Friday morning, whereas the video was originally posted on Wednesday night. We, as BITA, and we knew about it, and we started working on the case on Thursday morning, along with another animal welfare, of course, NGO. And but this is a very delicate issue, and you have to really think about the approach you're going to use.
Definitely.
And we start by doing some background check, and just in order to know how to tackle the issue.
In this case, how did you tackle with the issue?
Now, in this case...
have you been in touch with Hassan? What have you done? Have you emailed him? Have you contacted him through Facebook?
In this case, because the video went viral and everyone was already talking about it, and I don't mean it was good publicity, everyone hated the two men who did this.
The two men, which are Hassan and...
Hassan, who put the cat in the microwave,
yes.
and his friend Muhammad, who filmed the whole thing.
Okay.
Now, it went really viral, and before, you have laws in Lebanon, even if they're outdated. And before we went to legal action, the guy, basically, both men apologized. And they said that they did not intend to abuse the cat.
Laws, you said.
Yes.
There are actually laws that deal with cases like this here?
Yes, definitely. You have, in the penal code, you have 3 articles, 761, 762,
Are they
763.
effective? Are they implemented?
Yes, you can implement them. Of course, we're not going to sit back and wait for someone to implement them. As animal welfare NGO, we have to do this. And what these men did is animal abuse. It is, they can be incriminated in the law. There are articles that condemn what they did, and they can basically suffer from the consequences of what they did.
What could Hassan risk in this case, for example?
We really, before we get to this point, what we want, first of all, our safety, our main priority, our goal is the safety of the cat. We offered, along with another, of course, animal welfare NGO, we offered Hassan, we just said that please give us the cat, and we just want to make sure the cat is fine. You know, microwave and radiation, and the cat can look fine, but she definitely needs tests. She definitely needs urgent medical care.
Did anything happen to the cats?
Nothing that we are aware of. We don't know. The cat, he said that she looked fine in the apology, in the video that he posted yesterday, and which is not enough. An apology after doing this, we are humans. We are responsible for the life of animals, and we should show how irresponsibility towards them. What they did is, I'm not sure what to call it really, because it shows it's abusive. They gave
it's abuse.
It is
a case
abuse.
of,
there's no doubt
definitely,
about that. They gave the community, the society, very bad examples. People, it's true, are talking about them, but they're not saying the best things. They are just, no one actually.
Is this why you guys decided, not to repost this video? And as a matter of fact, we're not playing it live right now.
Thank you, really, for not playing it. But no, the thing is. Social media is, things can go really viral in no time. And animals, this is what we care about. And if you post the video, everyone knows that kids are online. And if you post it, we don't want to give kids ideas. We don't want, sometimes, of course, kids watch movies and...
And is this how he was inspired to commit such an act?
It could be. I am really not sure, because personally I haven't been in touch with him, but it could be that he was inspired by something like this. Now the scary thing is, of course, kids watch movies and abuse, and the thing is that if you see guns, kids don't have access to guns, whereas microwave, everyone has access to a microwave at home.
Definitely. But where do we go from here? How will you prevent such cases from happening ever again? Now,
again, in this case, we want the cat, because you can always go, you have the laws, you have the articles that incriminate this act. And as animal welfare, as an NGO, we go to schools, we go to universities, and we try to raise awareness. But in this case, our awareness is not enough. The two men need a professional help.
Well, this was Bida volunteer Rima Barakat. Thank you so much for being with us today. Now back to you, Yumna.
We're raising awareness on this very important issue, and this is hoping it all ends well. And on that note, let me remind you of our headlines. President Michel Sleiman heads to Saudi Arabia for talks with King Abdullah focused on the situation in Syria and the Iranian-Saudi relations. The Syrian political opposition agrees to participate in the international peace talks in Geneva, but say only when certain preconditions are met. And Iran state television says an agreement for expanded monitoring has been reached in talks with the UN nuclear chief in a deal that could boost wider negotiations over Tehran's atomic program. Those are your Monday headlines live on Future Television in Beirut. That was me, as well as Linda Tamim. From all of us here, have a good night.
رؤساء السادات يؤيدون فكرة المؤتمر
أن يعود حزب الله إلى لبنان